is Joy News Prime.
This is Joy News Prime here on Joy News on Multi TV. Coming up in the bulletin, 4 persons reported dead in renewed violence at Bimbela in the northern region. We'll be in the town, Ketsi, our correspondent, to bring you the latest. Members of Industrial and Commercial Workers Union hit the streets of Tema to protest deteriorating economic situation. They say it's leaving them jobless. Africa Center for Energy Policy demands that government account for how some 6 billion cedis estimated to have been collected for the settlement of the debt of the Tema oil refinery has been used, especially since a significant amount of the 1.4 billion cedi debt is still outstanding. Parliament's Public Accounts Committee report reveals public boards and corporations and other statutory bodies have been unable to account for some 2.1 billion cedis of monies in their books. And Ghana Journalists Association condemns as barbaric continuing assault on journalists in the discharge of their duties. We also have business, sport and international news in the 60-minute package, also available across Europe on ABN television. Do stay tuned. In our very first story, 4 persons have been confirmed dead with 9 others injured in a gun battle that ensued in the northern region town of Bimbela on Thursday. It is not clear yet what may have provoked the violence, but Joy News has picked up information that suggests that the refusal of some butchers to perform some traditional rites is the cause for the renewed violence in the area. One of the deceased has been identified as Abaz Bungu, 30. 7 houses have also been burned in Thursday's violent incident. The police confirmed the death to Joy News' Northern Region correspondent Martina Bugri, who now joins me on the line with the very latest. Good evening to you, Martina. What can you tell us about today's clashes?
It all started this morning around 11 a.m. where the regent of Bimbela had delegated a group to meet with the booters to discuss the ritual that is normally performed when there is a leader in a community. What happens is, per the tradition of the people of Bimbela, booters are supposed to present meat to the leader anytime they slaughter. But for some time now, that ritual is not being performed. And so the people were to meet with the booters and discuss it and to begin the performance of that tradition. But it turned violent, and then there were sporadic shootings. It eventually took over the town, and people died, people injured, some houses were burned.
All right, Martina, at the last count, we had information that about 4 people had been reported dead. Is that the same figure, or has there been an update?
It's still the same figure that we have, 4 people dead and then 9 injured.
All right, but what's the situation in the town now?
It's calm. There's more security than before. It's been beefed up, and so you can see the military, the police, the visibility is there, and people already are indoors because in the afternoon it was raining throughout, and then people were asked to go indoors to allow the security have a free hand to operate without causing any more trouble. And so eventually the whole town is quiet and people are back indoors.
Right, so one of the dead has been identified. Do we know of the remaining 3?
Not yet.
All right, thank you very much. That was Martina Bugri, and she's reporting or bringing us the very latest on the clashes in the northern region town of Bimbela, where we're told 4 people have died and 9 others injured, with several other houses burned following renewed violence. But back here in Accra, members of the Industrial and Commercial Workers Union, ICU, say the deteriorating state of the economy is crippling businesses with serious implications for their jobs. According to the union, 14,000 workers have been asked to go home in less than a year, with more expected to be laid off as the economy deteriorates further. The workers embarked on a demonstration through the port city of Tema today to protest what they describe as the ever-increasing hardship many of them are having to endure.
The workers, numbering over 1,000, marched through the port city, protesting to draw government's attention to the overwhelming crisis confronting businesses, resulting in incredibly low productivity and in some cases a total shutdown. They are demanding that government put in place measures to address what they describe as a crisis gradually wiping off whatever is left of the once vibrant industrial hub. The General Secretary of the Union, Solomon Kote, outlined fluctuations in the exchange rate of the cedi at a time businesses are dealing with rapidly rising fuel prices and a biting energy crisis.
We also realize that taxes that we are paying as workers is just too much, and government need to do something about it. The SMS tax, which we spoke against, they only waited, and before we see the law have been passed. What that implies is that our salaries that are already taxed, okay, when you take it to the bank, any transaction, your own check you draw on it, then they say it is an activity, and then they tax you on that one. We believe that thing must be scrapped if government is listening to us. Then number two, we again also realize that if you look at the way and manner by which the total or partial deregulation of the fuel in this country was carried out, it is so criminal, it is so indicting. What are the parameters that they are using? It is not known to anybody. So as and when they come out, then they slate it for us. We are saying that if our cherished employers would not be given the opportunity so that their import duties and export duties will actually see some form of reduction, we will be sitting here before we see all the businesses are gone out of our hands.
The Tema regional officer of the ICU says they are currently negotiating the redundancy package of more workers who are expected to go home by Monday.
It's so critical to the extent that as of today, we have more than 500 workers being declared redundant and will be going home latest by Monday, the 13th of July. I am negotiating their redundancy package. The first 250 was concluded this week, Monday. The second one, 310, will be concluded tomorrow or latest by Monday, and they will be paid at once and then they leave. These are even the letters we received from employers only for a period of 1 month.
Some workers share their frustration about living with the fact that they could lose their jobs any moment.
In our place like this, we've been told that by ending of August or the first early of the next year, about 500 workers are going home, and it's very, very, very serious. So we are praying that things will change so that they also will change their mind for that decision.
Had it not been the strong union we have, many of our workers would have been their employment would have been terminated by now. So in fact, it's a problem.
The union later presented a petition to the Metropolitan Chief Executive, who assured them government is going to address their issues. Matilda Pomaga for Joy News, Tema.
Now, still on the labour front, workers of Starwing Ghana Limited are accusing the board of the company, headed by Dr. Mensah Otoville, of overseeing what they say is its fraudulent sale to Danex Pharmaceuticals. The workers who picketed at the company's premises earlier today are asking the board to follow due process in the transaction. The staff say the uncertainty about their jobs does not help productivity. Derek Ekosam has more.
According to the workers, the protest was sparked by the unannounced arrival of armed policemen to the premise to evacuate the workers from the site, a move they resisted. With red arm and headbands, the workers chanted war songs to show their displeasure about the purported sale of Starwing Limited to Danex Pharmaceuticals, accusing the board of failing to seek their interests in the takeover.
His contract has been expired, and he wants to sell the company without informing us. So just now, we are expecting him to factor us. Even he can even give us our money so that we can leave the premises. Up to now, he doesn't even pay us. and he frees our accounts. We have no means even to cater for our children.
And June 30th, when the board met to decide on his fate, this man went ahead and freeze our account together with Mensa Otabe, Reverend Mensa Otabe, RCGC. They freeze our account. He is the board chairman. And together with Kwasi, they freeze our account. And now they are coming in with policemen to take over the place by force. So they are intimidating us.
This afternoon, about 4 truckloads of armed policemen with some officers from Danex, which purpose to have taken over controlling interest here, wanting to force their way inside. We never granted them. That's why I'm saying that the process, by our directors, the process was not properly engaged in. So there are issues about their purported takeover of the company.
As of the time the news team got to the scene, work had ground to a halt, and the workers were still in an angry but pensive mood, awaiting the arrival of the board members. Attempts to get the board of Starwen to comment on the issue have proved futile.
In other news, the Africa Center for Energy Policy, ACEP, is demanding that government account for how the toll debt recovery levies collected over the past 12 years on petroleum products has been managed. It estimates that 8 pesos collected on a litre since 2003 to ostensibly settle the debt should amount to 5.7 billion cedis, more than enough to pay off the 1.4 billion cedis debt. It therefore wonders why the refinery still has a huge debt on its books.
ACEP argues Store still has a debt of about 400 million cedis to pay, despite the nearly 6 billion cedis which should have accumulated into the debt recovery fund. For the think tank, this suggests the levies have not been used for the intended purpose.
There has been absolute lack of transparency. I mean, nobody tells us how much has accumulated. We did our own computation based on how much we have consumed, because the levy is on every litre of product that is sold. So if you compute how much we have sold on the Ghanaian market, which the levy affects, then cumulatively they have charged the consumer $5.7 billion Ghana cedis so far. You know, much more than the debt at the time that that levy was instituted. So where is the difference? They still have debt about 400 million Ghana cedis sitting on their books. So where is the levy that has been collected?
The policy think tank also wants government to fast-track the amendment of the MPA Act 691 to recognize full price deregulation to prevent formation of cartels by oil marketing companies.
Even though we support deregulation, if we don't get the elements of deregulation implemented, then the consumer will not benefit. If you have the money to import petroleum products, MPA should not restrict entry into the market. You know, even though the MPA was not supposed to restrict entry, we all know that it has been done to favor just a few. But for a deregulated market, if they don't do that, what you see happen is that a few BDCs will operate in the market and they will form cartels to fix prices, and the consumer will not benefit. We also want to avoid the situation where we are asking the BDCs to bi-weekly, every 2 weeks, fix the price ceiling. That also encourages cartelization, because you are giving them the opportunity to meet to decide what price to sell the product.
ACEP, although endorses and is positive about full deregulation of the petroleum sector, it insists the MPA should build capacity to detect, monitor and ensure prosecution of companies involved in cartelization, while OMCs calibrate their pumps in real time as and when adjustments are made. Abigail Adamakoinchi for Joy News.
The Ghana Journalists Association has condemned the continuing harassment of journalists performing their duties.
This man you're my servant. My servant, my food, my food. You. Why
But then we need to know. No. I'm the member of the. I'm a journalist. You can't stop me from filming this. Yeah, but then.
It follows recent incidents in which 2 journalists from the multimedia group were harassed as they filmed the demolition exercise by the Accra Metropolitan Assembly here in the capital Accra. In one of the incidents, Joy News' Latif Idris was arrested at Old Fadama where the AMA was pulling down structures and conveyed to the Tesano police station, where he was detained for a while. The security officers had insisted the journalist filming of the process would not be allowed unless it was sanctioned by the authorities. But GJA President Afilmoni has described the action as barbaric and inhumane.
We are obliged morally and constitutionally to rally to the rescue, rally to the defense of any journalist who is attacked in the line of duty. It is unacceptable, it is barbaric, it is inhumane, it is criminal for anybody to attempt to let alone to visit mayhem.
The questions on the minds of many is that, I mean, beyond the talk shop, what more does the association do for these persons who are sometimes assaulted?
Yeah, yes, we are also probably concerned about the frequent verbal disapproval of such incidents, and we are looking at other options that challenging such issues, pursuing such issues in court, and we have a team of lawyers who are as willing as ready to join forces with that to check such incidents of impunity.
The Media Foundation for West Africa, meanwhile, says the lack of conclusive redress is reason for the persistent assaults on journalists. Angali Manivanan cautioned, if not checked, it could degenerate into more serious press freedom infractions.
In many instances, in Ghana and in other countries also that we've looked at, there isn't redress for these attacks. Sometimes maybe there'll be a statement by a government official or something to that effect, but as far as actually seeing perpetrators being held accountable, and particularly when they're coming from state bodies, police, security forces, or even sometimes politicians, we are not seeing them being held responsible. So the deterrent effect that would normally happen, say from not necessarily a prosecution, but even a civil suit going through successfully, it's not as strong as it should be, and so I think this is why we continue to see violations like this.
What are we looking at in the future if the trend continues like this?
Result in self-censorship, because journalists would then have fear that they could be physically violated or otherwise maybe they'd be legally punished in some way, arrested or detained, and so that would actually prevent them from speaking out about abuses that they see and informing the public.
Well, Chairman of Parliament's Committee on Local Government and Rural Development, Dominica Zuma Azimbe, says he intends to personally meet the Mayor of Accra, Alfred Van der Poel, over the incidents.
Now that you've drawn our attention, my committee would want very much to engage with the Mayor, find out exactly what was the reason behind it, and if they are supported legally, we'll look at it. If they are not supported legally, we may want to advise thereafter. Rather contrary, I would have thought that AMA should engage the media in a discussion, friendly discussion, give them reasons why they think that for any media coverage, whether it is raising tension, whether it is giving a bad picture of the operations and people feel a little bit dissatisfied, I thought that if that is the case, AMA would have got it an opportunity.
You're watching Joy News Prime. We have more stories coming up after the break. Don't go away. Parliament is considering a number of international loans between Ghana and its development partners to support the 2015 budget. Now, the facilities in excess of $800 million are to be channeled into various sectors of the economy. We'll come to the story later on in business, but right now, a report by the Public Accounts Committee of Parliament has revealed that public boards, corporations and other statutory bodies could not account for 2.1 billion cedis during auditing of their books between 2010 and 2011. The committee is therefore recommending that some statutory bodies be taking off government subvention to save the economy from collapse.
The Finance Committee of the House should take a critical look at cocoa board profits application policies, particularly the management of the cocoa rules program, to ensure efficiency, effectiveness, and value for money. So, Speaker, for Social Security and National Insurance Trust, the committee noted that SNIT has invested in a company called Best Growth Limited. Unfortunately, Best Growth Limited has been making losses since it commenced business. The committee also noted that SNIT did not obtain any strategic plan from Best Growth Limited for the purposes of monitoring its operations to ensure that it runs profitably. Officials of the MPA informed the committee that the nature of the authority's business does not require the function of a credit controller. However, to ensure the debts owed the MPA are paid promptly, the authority currently gives all PSPs deadlines to settle their liability to the authority. To safeguard the revenue resource of the authority and to prevent debts going bad, the committee recommends that MPA should enforce its payment regime regarding the issuance and renewal of licenses to ensure that fees and revenues are collected.
Well, a member of Parliament for Ichiman Punya and member of the committee Isaac Esiama is calling for sanctions for those found culpable in its reports.
Sanctions are supposed to be applied. People need to be punished for various offenses, and they are all prescribed in the various acts. Go to the Financial Administration Act, the Audit Service Act, they are all there. The Procurement Act, various sanctions have been prescribed. The issue is who enforces those sanctions, or who enforces those positions are adhered to. So that is my difficulty, and some of them is within the domain of those boards and corporations to implement those recommendations. So we'll wait till October and see whether action has been taken, because Ghana cannot wait. We are messing up big time. This huge amount of money can do something better for this country. You see, in our consideration as a committee, we look at three very important things: efficiency, economy, and value for money. They are all missing. They are all missing. There is no efficiency, no economy, and no value for money. So what is it?
I'm curious to know, you've been on this committee for a while. I mean, you are privy to some of these reports, you are privy to some of the investigations that went into the audit report. What do you consider to be the underlying principle underpinning some of these irregularities that usually feature in some of these reports?
It's indiscipline, financial indiscipline. We don't seem to care about anything. That is the bottom line, and that lack of adherence to basic laws, rules, no internal control mechanism. So those are the things we seem not to care, because it's for the state, and so therefore we don't seem to take particular attention to detail. We are not very cautious when it comes to public work, and that is the problem. All criminal cases must be treated by the Attorney General's outfit. They are supposed to make sure that they deal with those cases, but they end up in the shells, nothing is done about it. So if the executive takes particular interest in our report and they work and they implement it, Ghana will benefit a lot.
Now, on the business of the day, the Speaker of Parliament is pushing for an electronic verification machine in the Chamber of Parliament to properly check MPs' attendance to sit-ins. This, according to the Speaker, will ensure that members who register their names will participate in the business of the House. This step is to check absenteeism and poor attendance, which the Speaker says is disrupting the daily business of the House. Popular Nigerian evangelist T.B. Joshua's Synagogue Church of All Nations has vehemently rejected a coroner's report that seeks to blame the church for the collapse of one of its buildings in Lagos, Nigeria. About its headquartered in Nigeria, has however described the findings as unreasonable and biased. Joining News' Adelaide Arthur has been speaking to spokespersons of the Ghana branch of the church here in Accra.
The findings, as far as we as a church is concerned, it doesn't look like they considered the qualified structural engineers that we used. They didn't consider the professional, the competence of the people. It made it look like even the people who were engaged were not qualified and were not competent. And these ones have been, in the field, they've been on the scene, they've done jobs over 25 years. And this occasion, you think they could be that negligent or better still that they should be rubbished, as it were, as non-existent and uninvolved in the very thing that has international recognition, especially when it comes to a place like Synagogue Church, where there is no nation on earth that has its citizens not coming to visit us every week on, week in, and we cannot take anything for granted. And that's why we never took any unqualified or incompetent, group of professionals to do any job on our campus.
Are you saying this is probably sabotage?
Maybe making reference to the only external image we have, which is the aircraft, which had gone over the building unusually for 5 times within an hour, which attracted the attention of everyone who was there, and people started taking pictures of it. Now, if all of that means nothing to the report of the police, Nigerian police force, that said external force was exerted, and our CCTV footage collaborating the same thing is all rendered as irrelevant, then of course something basically humanly is wrong. And that is why we start on our grounds that as far as we are concerned, this is injustice.
We know that with this report, the church has been indicted, and we also understand that they are calling for leaders to be prosecuted. Now, what has Prophet T.B. Joshua been saying since he is the leader of this church?
I must say that in the public view and even to us, Prophet T.B. Joshua has remained silent. The coroner inquest has made a recommendation, and they are demanding that certain people be removed, like the district police officer be transferred, and then the church be prosecuted, the structural engineers be prosecuted. It is the responsibility of the state prosecutors to take this up legally. If they do, then I believe that the church will also take, the necessary legal action. But as it stands now, this is the recommendation, and it's out there. But this is our position that we reject. It's outright, bias, and it's unfounded.
Up next, we're bringing you business news with Eton Amse. Please stay tuned.
Ahmed Onam say time now for business, and Trade and Industry Minister Ecclesfield Gabra has defended his ministry's limited role in the implementation of the National Single Window Scheme at the country's ports and borders. West Blue Consulting has been selected to operate the window from September 1 amidst threats from the firm currently processing trade and customs documents that it will sue if the new contractor is brought on board. There have also been suggestions that the involvement of the presidency in the transaction flies in the face of international best practice, which requires all such trade-related initiatives to be spearheaded by the Trade Ministry. Dr. Ecclesfield Gabra, however, revealed exclusively to Joy Business the Chief of Staff is taking charge of the transaction through the Trade Ministry, essentially involved in the implementation of the scheme.
West Blue, I've not seen the contract of the West Blue. I don't know whether the contract has been signed with them. That again is a function of the Ministry of Finance, because West Blue is supposed to assist the Ghana Revenue Authority, which reports to the Ministry of Finance. So that is an activity within the Ministry of Finance.
So do I take it that you mean the Finance Ministry, as far as the single window scheme is concerned, is taking ultimate responsibility for the implementation and not the Trade and Industry Ministry?
Not in that sense at all. In fact,
so then why wouldn't the Trade Ministry...
The President's directive is for the Chief of Staff to actually, because he is more or less a coordinating body above ministries, to be the focus for the coordinated work of the Ministry of Transport, the Ministry of Agriculture, if necessary, the Ministry of Health, the Ministry of Trade and Industry, and the Ministry of Finance. So the National Single Window Scheme is being coordinated through the Office of the Chief of Staff and not by any single ministry, for the very reasons I've told you, because there are many agencies that have to work together, and if you give it to any one ministry, it might be difficult to get the kind of coordination that you need.
Okay.
The Chief Executive of the Private Enterprise Federation, Nana Osei Bunsu, has warned businesses and government against getting overly comfortable as the cedi begins to appreciate against the dollar. The currency, which depreciated by some 20% in 2015 alone, has made significant gains in the last week, especially following the Bank of Ghana's announcement that it will inject $20 million a day to shore up the currency. By speaking to Joy Business at the launch of investment advisory firm Dayless Capital, Ms. Osei Bunsu said the root cause of the cedi's depreciation has to be fixed to enable the country sustain the gains. Private businesses have not been spared the effects of the currency's tumble over the last few months. For many of such businesses, the recent appreciation is welcome news. But the Private Enterprise Federation argues it is the fundamentals that needs to be tackled.
I mean, when you tumble 10 feet down and you climb back up 1 foot and you said, I'm doing fantastic, don't you see? No, we're not doing well. We got to do all the fundamentals right. We got to get our structures in place. We got to make sure that our city, the value of our city is maintained.
The launch of Daylex Capital also saw the introduction of the Daylex Vision Fund, a long-term growth fund onto the market. It will invest in the stock markets, government treasuries and corporate bonds, and open for subscription today at an initial offer price of 20 pesos per share. Chairman for Daylex Capital, Alex Kwesi Brooks, tells Joy Business the Vision Fund is targeted at institutional and retail clients who seek to realize significant capital appreciation over the long term.
So you start with the minimum that is required, and every month you add on to it. And because we're going to invest in stock markets throughout Africa, we're going to be investing in government bonds throughout Africa, and then we're going to be investing in private companies that have very strong growth. So your investment return is good. And because we are not only investing in one type of asset, it brings diversity and reduces the risk.
Deputy Director General of the Securities and Exchange Commission, Alexander Williams, endorsed the product, explaining that it is one of the safest products to invest in. He also announced government by December will pass a law that will allow it to license a lot more products. There are 750 shares available at 20 pesos each, with a minimum of 100 shares. And Parliament is considering a number of international loans between Ghana and its development partners to support the 2015 budget. The facilities in excess of $800 million is to be channeled into various sectors of the economy. Deputy Finance Minister Kaisel Atoforsin tells Joy News the loans have become necessary to enable government to meet targets set in the year's budget.
It's our budget support. I believe you are aware that the Finance Minister, in coming to Parliament some time ago, announced that as a result of Ghana going into the IMF program, a number of donor partners have agreed to provide us budget support. A typical one is coming from the World Bank. You saw a World Bank of $150 million. You saw $45 million also coming from the Africa Development Bank as a budget support. You saw $17.5 million coming from KfW, the German government. So these are bilateral and multilateral loans for the purposes of multi-donor budget support. This is to support the financing of the 2015 budget.
So basically that is it?
It's actually provisioned in the 2015 budget, and they are for financing of the budget deficit.
That's it for business. My name is Etonam. Say many thanks for your time. Israel I has more. Please stay.
Time to do some sports now, and football is top of the agenda. FIFA has reverted to Ghana's favourable qualifying format that helped the Black Stars to qualify for the World Cup for the first time in 2006. Now, the Black Stars qualified for the World Cup with an adopted league format for qualifying that particular year. However, another format was developed for the 2014. While the Black Stars have risen to the 25th spot in the latest FIFA rankings, which were released by the World Football Governing Body. It's a massive jump up the table by 9 places from the 34th spot the country fell to last month after gaining 27 points to add to the 800 of last month. Let's have a look now at the standings, and this is what it's looking like now in Africa. Algeria number 1, it's Cote d'Ivoire number 2 in Africa, Ghana number 3. But you look at the numbers on this side, Algeria number 1 in Africa though, but number 19 in the world. Cote d'Ivoire 21st in the world, and Ghana 25th in the world. It goes on there. There's Tunisia, Senegal, Cameroon, Congo, Cape Verde Islands, Egypt and Nigeria making the top 10 in Africa. Let's have a look at what the world fixtures are looking like as well. It's Argentina who are currently top there, and really because of what they've done in Copa America. There's Germany, there's Belgium, there's Colombia, Netherlands, Brazil, Portugal, Romania, England and Wales. I mean, really, former captain Sunday Olise is in line to take over as coach of Nigeria after the National Federation indicated the two parties have reached an understanding. His appointment should be finalized by the weekend, according to the NFF. But how are Nigerians reacting to this?
Old, but despite Olise's exploits in the national team, remember he played 59 games including at the 94 and 98 World Cups, he has very little coaching experience, having only spent a year.
Derby Open Sports tonight. I'm George Adejunior. July will join us with some more. You have a good night.
Interior Minister Mark Oyongo has beaten a retreat on comments he made which sought to justify violent clashes that erupted during the Talinsi by-election on Tuesday. The clash between the Azoka boys of the ruling NDC and the Bolga Bulldogs of the opposition MPP have been condemned by many, especially due to the possibility it could escalate during the general elections next year. The minister, in a radio interview, had suggested the attack was provoked.
People were attacked. NDC people were also attacked. So it cuts across the political divide. We have been advising our supporters to remain calm. Violence begets violence.
What does that mean?
Will not beat out violence if they are not provoked.
No, Honorable, what does that mean?
It also brought in some people. And the invisible officers, what they call the forces, invisible forces. And then the Bolga Bulldogs. So violence against
Honorable,
what I mean is that if you are a peace lover and somebody comes to attack you, you definitely have to protect yourself. You definitely have to protect yourself. That's what I mean. Violence begets violence.
The minister has since retracted his comments, explaining he was not in support of one side over the other. Now, the comments have attracted some condemnation, as you heard earlier, and there are others. The security analyst, Emmanuel Sowate, believes that the minister should have to apologize or resign over those comments. Would like to hear that, if my producer can get that for me in a bit.
I hope that he comes to do a damage control. Even so, maybe he has to do it at the right time. And for me, of course, that if he does not have the trust and confidence of the key actors in elections, like NPP, other political parties, for the good of the system, he may want to leave voluntarily so that the system is trusted. Because you see, he's a Minister of Interior. Minister of Interior is the high-ranking official. He's in charge of public safety and security. Now, if he comes to make such a statement, what it portends for trust and confidence across board, both here, meaning political actors. You know, I'm not talking about other constituencies, political actors. I think it doesn't augur well for trust and confidence that is needed for any election, or that is needed for engagement before, during, and after elections. Because the security agencies are core. And being the minister, people might say that even if the police are being professional, they might say that the police are being pushed, or the police is being pushed by the minister.
When you ask that he leaves voluntarily, how do you mean?
I mean that he resigns.
Indeed.
I think it's plain and simple, yeah. From my perspective, yes, he leaves. Yes, sure. He leaves, yes. I repeat that 100 times, that he leaves.
Very well.
That is why I'm trying to link why my reason and the justification for that conclusion. He might come and do damage control, but it is up to the other actors to accept it or not. But if he insists on his statement, then he has to leave, because, you know, he breached that trust and confidence that is needed.
Now, journalists are typically not supposed to be in the news, and I'd often want to stay out of it, especially when it concerns me, and I have to be the one talking about it. This story happens to be one involving some harassment I had to go through whilst doing my job. It has been talked about a lot today, and I thought I should share with you what happened. I was on my way to the office when I bumped into a roadblock where I later on realized the AMA was undertaking a demolition exercise. So I filmed it. But the security officers there didn't think that I should be filming it without permission. Here's what happened.
I will do it. We are ready. I will do it. We are ready. We are ready. I've been admitted at hospital. I want to speak to you. When you stand there, who are you? Stand there. Who are you? Come and face me. This man. This man who? You are my servant. My servant. My foot. My foot.
you. Who are you?
But then we need to know.
No. I'm the member of them. I'm a journalist. You can't stop me from filming this.
Yeah, but then,
permission,
not permission, but then your accreditation. That's what I wanted to see. But I saw your page and I'm okay.
Okay, thank you very much.
So carry on.
Right, so that was it. I wasn't beating, but they kept on harassing me. My issue has to do with the fact that somebody is giving them orders that journalists should not be allowed to film. I don't think that's a regular order. That's it for the bulletin. Before we go, a quick run through our top stories. 4 persons have been reported dead in renewed violence at Bembila in the northern region. Members of the Industrial and Commercial Workers Union today hit the streets of Tema to protest the deteriorating economic situation they say is leaving them jobless. The Africa Center for Energy Policy is demanding that government account for how some 6 billion cedis estimated to have been collected for the settlement of the debt of the Tema oil refinery has been used, especially since a significant amount of the 1.4 billion cedi debt is still outstanding. Parliament's Public Accounts Committee report has revealed public boards, corporations and other statutory bodies have been unable to account for some 2.1 billion cedis of monies in their books. And the Ghana Journalists Association has condemned this barbaric continuing assault on journalists in the discharge of their duties. That'll be all for the bulletin. My name is Israel. Thank you very much for watching. Have a good evening.
This is Joy News Prime.